Well, all right, everyone. I have top of the hour, so time to get this presentation underway. We are recording. That has been started, and you should be able to obviously hear me and see my screen, so we should be all good to go. So welcome to part 3 of our presentation, our series on migration to Windows 10. In the first 2 parts, we went ahead and talked about all the preparation stuff that you would go through when you're looking at moving your organization from Windows 7 or Windows 8.1 up to the latest releases of Windows from Microsoft being Windows 10. So we talked about the configuration manager preparation portions of it, assessing your assessment for readiness for upgrade. We looked at upgrading clients with an in-place upgrade scenario. Then last week we talked about bare metal deployments and some of the other OSD scenarios outside of in-place upgrade, and then monitoring our status. So today, what we're going to look at, we'll do a recap of the last 2 weeks just to show you where we ended up. Then we'll talk about, now that I've got Windows 10 out in my environment, what do I do as far as management of that platform? So what can I do within Configuration Manager, as well as I'll just do a quick introduction, maybe / comparison of doing management of Windows 10 with some of the other technologies that's available. So my contact information is on the screen for you if you need me, wally.mead@cireson.com. I've been with Cireson for a little over 3 years now after 22 years at Microsoft, mainly in the Configuration Manager product group. Okay, housekeeping, you guys are all in muted mode, so you can't ask me questions verbally. However, you do have the questions panel in your GoToWebinar interface. So at any point in time throughout the presentation, if you have questions or comments, feel free to type them up and submit them. I won't be looking at them until the end of the presentation, but I will get to all of them at the end. But please do feel free to go ahead and type up your questions and go up that way. This session, as I mentioned, is being recorded. And just for reference, I know last week somebody asked, so let me go ahead and show it again. Here's our Vimeo site. So all of our presentations go up on vimeo.com/Team Cireson. So you can just go here, vimeo.com Team Cireson. And when you go there, it'll take you directly to our latest videos that we've uploaded. In fact, they uploaded one just yesterday for what's new in the Cireson Service Manager portal. But here are the 2 from our previous webinars in the series, part 1 and part 2 from a week ago and 2 weeks ago. So you can go and get those and play those back if you need to for yourself, or if other people in your organization weren't able to attend. And this presentation we posted up there probably tomorrow, if not on Thursday. So it'll get up there as well. So just for your reference. All right, so quickly we'll go through our agenda. We'll talk for just a minute on who we are. I know most of you guys were here in parts 1 and 2, so you've heard this already, but just who we are at Cireson. I'll do a very, very quick recap of parts 1 and 2 of the series, just to talk about how we got to the point where we are now in our presentation and demonstration. But honestly, it doesn't really matter how you got Windows 10 deployed, even if you did a manual install or MDT or whatever you did to get there. What we're going to concentrate is on the bottom couple of bullets, managing Windows 10 with Configuration Manager, and then managing Windows 10 as a mobile platform. And I won't go into any depth at all on that because I just know I'm not going to have time, and it's a completely different setup. But I'll make some references to managing Windows 10 as a mobile platform as well. So we'll look at those core Configuration Manager features that are supported on Windows 10, and then spend a lot of time on features specific to Windows 10 and the management of that as a platform. Okay, so who we are as a company, we've been around for over 5 years now, started doing consulting on System Center, primarily around Service Manager, found a lot of gaps in the product, so we went ahead and created some of our own apps to help fill some of the functionality gaps. People are very excited about those, so that turned into what we have in the first bullet there, or way off the left-hand side, your service management stream. So administrative as well as end user enhancements to the Service Manager technology. We then decided that Configuration Manager is a great big player in System Center, and let's start doing some work there. So our first delving into that was asset management. So taking some of that rich inventory and discovery data that Configuration Manager has, taking that out, putting it into a Service Manager CMDB, and then letting you have more control over your assets with financial information, cost centers, cost of assets, contracts, warranties, leases, location codes, just giving you true lifecycle management of your assets coming from Configuration Manager or other sources. And then purely in Configuration Manager space, we have 4 free apps that are available for you to download. Anybody can go to our Cireson.com website and go to products and then free community solutions. You get our Ticker app, which is really popular, the Remote Manage app, which is very, very popular as well, and then the UDA apps or a UDA app or the user-centric app. And then recently, this calendar year, we've come out with a Configuration Manager portal. So if you want to have a web-based solution for software deployments as well as operating system deployments and just status reporting in your environment, you can look at that as opposed to having to use the full Configuration Manager console. Just some quick stats about our company. Again, been around for over 5 years. We've got, as you can see, over 1,200 customers in 63 countries around the world. Lots of consulting hours. We still do a lot of that. And what we're really proud of is our renewal rate. People that wind up purchasing our products wind up sticking with us because of the value they see. And then again, as you've seen this slide before, just some of our fans being some of our customers, whether it's IT or fashion or legal or healthcare, lots of different customers around the world, obviously with 63 countries around the world. And then our products all sit at the very top of the stack. So we sit on top of System Center, which can obviously be hosted on premise or in the cloud with Azure or other solutions. We think you'll be happier with an Azure-based solution without having to manage your infrastructure locally, but it doesn't really matter to us because, again, we're sitting on top of System Center. Okay, so with that out of the way, now let's jump in to do a quick recap of what we talked about the last couple of weeks of the series. And by the way, I hope you guys have had as much fun in this series and learned something from it. I've had fun delivering it. Just something I learned a long time ago, and my feeling was for every single presentation that I took or delivered, I always felt that if I could find one thing in that presentation that I could take back to my own organization and implement it to make whatever solution it was I was looking at more effective, then I felt it was a worthwhile environment that I went to, use my time for that presentation or the training class or whatever it was. So hopefully you guys have found some nuggets in there that help you out in your own environments, and hopefully you'll get something out of today as well. So. All right, so we talked real quickly about preparing the environment, and in part one, we spent a lot of time on it, but you have to have a valid Windows 10 ADK because we were talking about the fact that you really should only be using Configuration Manager Current Branch and not even the 2012 edition because it doesn't support the current releases, the last couple of releases of Windows 10. So with the current ConfigMan Current Branch solution, you have to have a valid Windows ADK, and you want to make sure that you're up at the latest version because that's what's supported by Microsoft for deploying the latest releases of Windows 10, being now at 17.03. So you have boot images that you need for Config Manager for the vast majority of your operating system deployment scenarios, such as bare metal or Pixie deployments like we showed last week. Import any required device drivers. Prepare your Windows 10 source files, whether it's an in-place upgrade, which we did 2 weeks ago, or a bare metal scenario, which we did last week. Verify that all the required content has been distributed to at least one accessible distribution point in your environment. Ensure the proper site system roles have been deployed, certainly site server, database server, management point, distribution point. Those are all the minimum required, but you'll probably also want to do some reporting. You'll want to do some software update management. And if you want to do the Windows 10 servicing that we'll talk about today, that utilizes the software update technology as well. Probably a fallback status point, maybe state migration point. There's numerous other site system roles that you may have out there, but the minimum would be site server, database server, management point, and distribution point. For a lot of scenarios, when you're going into WinPE, that second bullet for WinPE boot images, you'll need a network access account, at least one that clients can use to gain access to the DP content, and then verify your boundary group has access to the distribution points. So your DPs are accessible to these clients in whatever form they are coming into the environment for OS deployment through your boundary groups. Then we talked real quickly about upgrading determining your upgrade assessment targets. So we talked a couple of different ways about doing that with the built-in upgrade assessment utility or option in the Windows 10 setup scenario. And there's a checkbox in the task sequence. In Config Manager, just to very easily do the /compat scan only scenario. And then Upgrade Analytics, which is a web-based cloud solution to go ahead and pull telemetry data from your Windows 7, 8, 8.1 clients up to the Windows Upgrade Analytics through OMS and providing that information back down to Config Manager for display in the console. And then we talked about the fact that you could also create your own queries collections using your own defined criteria that you know would be applicable to your environment. So if you don't want to use either of the other two, you know that you need X amount of RAM and disk space, whatever, for your environment, you can create your own collections for that. And then we looked at bare metal deployments in part 2, so very similar to the in-place upgrade. They just required some additional things, boot image, which the in-place upgrade doesn't have because you're already an existing client and uses the in-place upgrade of Windows 10. And then operating system image instead of an operating system upgrade package, a different task sequence. For bare metal, your distribution point would need to be PXE enabled. And then again, your boundary group would likely need to include your DHCP scope, which most PXE scenarios are going to include DHCP as a way of getting an IP address. Okay, then lastly, you create a task sequence. The task sequence will go ahead and take the various pieces that might be used, drivers, boot images, OS images, or OS upgrade packages, applications, software updates, whatever USMT, whatever is required there to get that new operating system down to your client, down to your computer to turn it into a Windows 10 device with the configuration manager client on it. And then you deploy that task sequence out to your appropriate target collection, which hopefully is based off of your upgrade assessment analysis. Okay, then we looked at monitoring the deployment status. So the two main methods are in-console monitoring. So just go to the monitoring workspace, go to the deployments node, find your deployment and summarize it, then click view status and look at the success or in progress or unknown or error categories to find out what you had. And then reports. So if you don't want to do the in-console monitoring, or maybe you don't want to give somebody access to the console, you can give them access to the URL for reporting. They can look at reports such as the status summary with specific task sequence deployment and drill in through from there. We talked about the fact that you want to verify that Heartbeat Discovery is up to date because that's how clients report their operating system into the Configuration Manager console when you're looking at the devices node in assets and compliance, which I'll show you momentarily. And then we talked about wanting to make sure that your hardware inventory is up to date because that's where you report your information that's used for reporting. And it's going to be much easier to see the real operating system that's reported through hardware inventory than it is to see that operating system through Heartbeat Discovery. And I'll show you that again in just a second. And then a good report there to use is count operating systems and service packs. And then lastly, we introduced the Windows 10 servicing dashboard just as another way to verify your clients are reported in. This actually does use Heartbeat Discovery data. So that would be related to that previous slide on making sure Heartbeat Discovery is up to date. So you go to Software Library, Windows 10 Servicing, then hover over the Windows 10 usage, and then it would explode or pull out a section of that donut if you have multiple different versions of Windows 10 out there, and highlight for you how many clients you have running specific builds or versions of Windows 10. And then we're going to talk about servicing here momentarily. So let's just do a real quick follow-up on that, just to show you again a couple of things. Now, as you recall last week when we did our demonstration and I did my bare metal client, exited with a task sequence error. And I did some research on that, and that error came back. The two most common causes that I saw reported were either the IP address was not in the boundary, which I know mine was because I'm using my boundary. If I go to boundary groups and my local clients and my boundary groups here are using the config-man site, which is an Active Directory site, which is not valid for obviously bare metal. And then it's got the full IP address range of 192.168.5.1 to 5.254. So the entire subnet, and that's what my DHCP scope is in. So it certainly probably wasn't that. And the other most common scenario that people responded back with for that specific error were that their BIOS time was out of date. So the time in BIOS was out of sync enough so that it wouldn't boot up and do the task sequence. And that's certainly possible. You never can tell with Hyper-V and images and so on. But anyway, what I did was, all I did was shut down that image and start it back up. And the end result was this guy right here. So it did get deployed just by restarting the task sequence, just rebooting that client and having to redo the task sequence. And there it came in. Mini-NT with their random name. That was the name built by Configuration Manager or by Windows as part of the process. Obviously, when you'll probably want to control that, so you can rename after the fact, or you'd want to have an OSD front end to go in there and control that as part of your deployment process. And if we scroll clear off to the right, you'll see that this guy does report in as Windows NT Workstation 10.0. So this is what I was mentioning, that heartbeat discovery. It's not always as easy to identify your real operating system. Now, 10.0 is pretty easy to figure out. But if you look at this guy was my Windows 7 client, so he used to report in as Windows NT Workstation 6.1, and then 6.2, I believe, was my Windows 8.1 client, Client 7 and Client 8.1, or Client 81. So those are not as easy to identify. But however, if you go and look at a report, is that report still running? I guess I closed that report out. Sorry about that. So if I go back to monitoring and reporting, and I got another thing I'm going to state back there in just a second, but let me go and get this report started. Operating system, and then count operating systems and service packs is a good report to look at. So as that report loads, it takes a moment to load. The other thing I wanted to mention is, I think it was Roger asked a question last week about one of my clients was reporting in his tablet edition, and now you see both of them reporting in his tablet edition. And I tried to do some research, and I could not find the answer on why some of them report as tablet edition. And you notice these two that I have down at the bottom that I installed through either manual install for Client 10, or the Mini-NT guy was the bare metal deployment, came up with obviously just Windows 10 Workstation, Windows Workstation 10.0. So I've got emails out to a couple different people. I know at least one of them was out of the office last week. He came back to yesterday, so he's just plowing through emails, I'm sure. So I will get that answer. And Roger, I should have your email. I know you're on the here today. Should have your email from the registration list, so I can email you that answer when I get the answer as to why they are reporting. Now, initially, I mentioned that these guys did not report as tablet edition initially. They just came back as 10.0. And then after they did heartbeat discovery and I turned them off, shut down the image, snapshotted it, brought it back up, that's when their next heartbeat, they reported it as tablet edition. So these were the two that were done in-place upgrade. The bottom ones were not in-place upgrade. So, alrighty, so let's go back to that report. So what it's easier to tell is if you go to the report, count operating systems and service packs, you'll see that I have 4 computers that are running Microsoft Windows NT Enterprise. And if I drill into that, then I will see all 4 of my computers, Client 10, which was deployed manually long ago before I made a Figman client, and then Client 7 and 81, which are the in-place upgrade clients, and then the Mini-NT guy is the one that came across through the bare metal deployment last week. So, and they all report obviously more easily identifiably as an operating system. So that's probably a better way to go when you're looking at when you look at your operating systems. But as a quick check, and you can do queries obviously after the operating system attribute very, very easily. Okay, then just quickly on monitoring before we jump into today's topics. So if we go back here to deployment status, deployment. So here is our Windows 10 installation to our all-in-one computer for our bare metal last week. Remember, it was error before, it's now success because that same computer went and reran and it came back successfully. And then here were the upgrade to Windows 10 guys that we did before. So we looked at that. And then the last thing we looked at before we ended out last week was we went to the software library, we went to Windows 10 servicing, and we looked at the servicing node, which I'll concentrate more on just momentarily here. And then if you hover over the donut, now I only have one version of Windows 10 here, and it happens to be 15.11, which you can see here on the right-hand side is expiring soon. So I do need to get my guys upgraded. But you just hover over that and you can see that I have 4 clients that have reported in. So I have 4 computers running Windows 10 build or version 1511. And that all 4 of them are release ready, which just means current branch. I don't have any current branch for business or LTSB installed here. Alrighty, okay. So we're done with that. So let's go ahead and jump in today. So managing Windows 10 clients. So what management methods are available? So there's a number of different ways how you can manage Windows 10 once you have it deployed in your environment. Use Configuration Manager. I'm assuming that's what I'm going to cover here in this presentation because obviously it's a Configuration Manager topic we're talking about. We deployed it through Configuration Manager, so all of the operating system deployment scenarios that you would implement through Config Manager, there's always an action in the task sequence, which is to install the Configuration Manager client agent. So whenever you do OSD, one of the end results is that computer that you deploy is a Configuration Manager client. So you guys already know Config Manager, and hopefully you love it as much as I do. That's why I've been around it for 20 some years. So it's the most popular way, especially when you already have it in place. It makes sense to go ahead and use it for your management technologies of the platform. And that keeps all of your management the same. So your Windows 7, your Windows 8, 8.1, your server platforms, your Macs, your Linux, your Unix, and so on, they're all being managed with Configuration Manager. Now, another option you have is managing Windows 10 as a mobile device enrolled into Configuration Manager. So with Configuration Manager current branch, you have the ability of doing what's called on-premises mobile device management. So this uses the built-in mobile device management agent that's in Windows 10. And it was in some prior releases of Windows as well, but since we're talking about Windows 10, so it's a built-in capability into Windows 10. However, the client is managed through Configuration Manager on-premises infrastructure. So the devices don't need to go talk to the cloud like most of the other solutions we'll talk about on the next slide do. However, so they're talking to purely your management point, your distribution point, and so on premise. However, your site does need a Microsoft Intune subscription, and that's for some of the functionality of the management of the devices. However, all the management is done specifically and solely through Config Manager. But you are not using the ConfigMan client agent. Instead, you're utilizing the built-in MDM agent of your device, of Windows 10. Okay, now there's a couple other options. As a mobile device enrolled into Configuration Manager that's integrated with Microsoft Intune. Well, I just mentioned in the previous slide that you do have to have an Intune subscription if you want to manage through the on-premises mobile device management solution. However, with the previous one, the devices aren't talking to Intune at all. They're talking to just Configuration Manager, but the site needs a Intune subscription. In this scenario, your devices are being managed through Config Manager console, but they're communicating with Intune. So the devices are actually going out to the web or out to the cloud and getting their policies there, getting their content from there. But those content is being created from Configuration Manager. Your policies are being created from Configuration Manager. So it's a little bit different scenario. It sounds kind of the same, but the difference is that your devices are talking to Intune in the cloud. It's just being controlled by Configuration Manager. Now, one of the big differences between this option and the previous option is that the previous option, let me go back a slide. So this bottom option here is a mobile device enrolled into Config Manager. This option is only available for Windows 10. It's not available for iOS, not available for Android or any other platforms. It's only Windows 10. The integrated scenario, or what is generally referred to in the product documentation as hybrid configuration, you're integrating Intune with Configuration Manager. So you're managing mobile devices through Intune, but through Configuration Manager. They're rolled through Intune though, as well as your on-premise Windows, Linux, Mac, Unix type clients all in one console. And this solution here is extended out to your iOS, your Androids, the very popular mobile platforms, as well as Windows Phone. So that's another option you have. But here again, the devices are communicating with the Microsoft Intune service to get their policies and their content. You can also manage, if you take Configuration Manager completely out of the picture, you have a couple options here, and that's to manage your Windows 10 devices as a mobile device into Windows or Microsoft Intune. So no config manager in the picture at all. You're just doing all of your management through Intune, and you're taking your Windows 10 device and using that MDM agent and rolling it into Microsoft Intune and managing as a mobile device, very similar to as what you would be doing with your mobile devices. So that's not what you want if you need full Windows, which means Windows Server, Windows, other Windows platforms, Linux, Unix, Mac management. If you want that, then obviously you want to have the Configuration Manager experience. Now, I know Microsoft Intune is getting into the Mac management as well, but Linux, Unix, and Windows Server is not there. And your last option is to install the Intune PC client agent on that Windows 10 device. You're still managing it through Intune, but you're using the PC client agent instead of the mobile device management agent that's built into Windows 10. So again, a couple different scenarios there for management through Intune and separately, completely, ignoring Configuration Manager entirely, is enrolling as a mobile device or enrolling as a PC with the Intune client agent. So you have a bunch of different options here. Obviously, if you're listening to me and you want my recommendation is the first option we talked about. You utilize Configuration Manager as the way of managing that device. You install the Configuration Manager client agent on your Windows 10 device, and you treat it in essence like a Windows 7 device or like your Windows Server devices, using the same console, the same experience that you have, as well as your Macs, your Linux, your Unix. From there, the next best solution probably is going to be integrating with Intune into Configuration Manager, the hybrid solution, and because you're going to have your mobile device that you want to manage as well, so you need some mobile platform device anyway, management. So there you have the different options you want to. Now, again, you use whatever method that is going to accomplish your needs. Whether or not you want an agent installed, for example, those mobile device scenarios, you don't have to install an agent. You're using a built-in agent into the operating system. And what management features you want. Obviously, Configuration Manager has more overall features, such as client health, such as operating system deployment, such as full software update management and all the different types of applications. Microsoft Intune updates monthly, where Configuration Manager updates every 4 months. So you can get new mobile device type features more quickly when you're doing an integration or doing Intune management, because that's going to update on a monthly basis, where Config Manager is going to take you a little over a quarter to get some updates. So if you really need to have something right away and you want to be on the bleeding edge, then you can get access to newer features more readily when you're doing the Intune scenarios. Now, new management features might come to the mobile scenario before Configuration Manager. So you do see some features in Configuration Manager that, if you look at them, they actually state are for hybrid scenarios. So they have them there, but not for the Configuration Manager client. Now, hybrid provides a single pane of glass of management, however, still uses the Intune mobile device management features. Now, with all that said, I kind of skipped over the first sub-bullet. Microsoft is moving towards modern management. And what Microsoft means by modern management is utilizing the MDM agent. So Microsoft is moving that way. They're doing a lot of stuff. A lot of the features you see coming out are for modern management. They're investing very, very heavily into Azure and Intune and doing a lot of work there. So you see a lot of things changing rapidly in that space, and you don't see things changing as rapidly in the on-premises, being the Configuration Manager space. Now, that does not mean or does not imply that Configuration Manager is going away. It's going to be around for a lot of years. It just may, and Config Man does adopt new features, obviously, every release that comes out. So when 1706 comes out, we're expecting there'll be some new features in there. Now, it's not out yet, so we don't know. So I'm not trying to apply that at all. Again, if it was me, I would be doing the Configuration Manager client agent for my Windows 10 environments. Okay, so assuming we're going with Configuration Manager as our management infrastructure for managing Windows 10, what's there and what's new. So we looked at this momentarily, the Windows 10 dashboard. But you want to keep these Windows 10 devices up to date. Microsoft's going to be releasing new builds of Windows 10 periodically, and you want to keep them up to date because they have new features, better security, possibly better performance in them. So the Windows 10 dashboard gives you a view into your Windows 10 population, as I kind of showed you in the previous demonstration. It shows you the projected lifespan of each build and how many clients are nearing the end of life. And as you saw, mine said 100% of my clients were nearing end of life or expiring soon. Now, that doesn't mean they stop working, just that they're no longer supported by Microsoft. And then you can create servicing plans as a way to automatically deploy new builds of Windows 10. So my clients were all on 15.11. There was obviously 16.07 since then, and now 17.03. So I could use the servicing plans option to go ahead and deploy or upgrade my Windows 10 clients from 15.11 to 16.07 or 17.03. And that's what I'll talk about here momentarily. Essentially what they are is they're automatic deployment rules. So you guys are probably familiar with automatic deployment rules for software updates. And that's what your servicing plans in essence are. It's an automatic rule engine, automatic deployment rule engine with a couple of different screens in there based for Windows 10 deployments. But if you know how to work with ADRs, you know how to create a servicing plan. They're extremely similar. So you just target a collection of clients that you want to deploy a new build or new version of Windows 10 after a specified number of days post-release of that build, that version, in a particular manner. So you can manage current branch or current branch for business. Now, one thing to be aware of is if you're still running on Windows Server 2012 R2, which my environment is, in order to be able to do the Windows 10 servicing utilizing the Windows 10 servicing dashboard, you do have to install a couple of updates. You need KB 3095113, and that KB is what's going to allow you to have the upgrades classification that you can then synchronize through your software update point so that you'll be able to upgrade to later builds of versions of Windows 10. And then the second KB on there, the 3159706, is a update the configuration manager, really WSUS, to allow it to support the new encryption schemes that were added into the anniversary edition, Windows 10 1607, and later. So if you are going to be deploying Windows 10 1607 and going forward, you have to have both those updates. If you're on Config Manager, or excuse me, on WSUS version 4.0 on Windows Server 2012 R2. Okay, so that's one option, and I'll show you that in just a second when I get into that demo. The other option that's still really, really popular is using that in-place upgrade via task sequences that we looked at a couple of weeks ago. So you just create a new operating system update package and upgrade an operating system from an existing upgrade package, task sequence, and deploy that new operating system out. You're just targeting now Windows 10 clients that are out of date versus your Windows 7 clients like I did and Windows 8.1 like I did a couple weeks ago. So it's very, very popular. It's actually more popular than the servicing plans as a way of keeping Windows 10 up to date. A couple of the advantages are you have more control over the entire process. With a servicing plan, yes, you get to go ahead and create hey, I want to deploy this after this date and time using these DPs, silent or whatever, your ADR. But you'll lose a lot of customizations with the servicing plan. For example, start menu or taskbars or language packs and so on. So you have to reapply all those customizations. And you can very easily do that as part of a task sequence because you have the ability of adding more custom actions to your task sequence, which you then redeploy those customizations through provisioning packs or other scripts or whatever you did in the first place. So they're very popular from that. It's also great for installing and updating applications, which servicing plans are just doing the core Windows 10 scenario. So keeping that operating system up to date. So if you go talk to MVPs, you go talk to the community, you'll find a lot more people are doing the in-place upgrade via task sequences as opposed to the servicing rings inside the configuration manager dashboard. Now, if you go look at the configuration manager documentation, the documentation tells you that the servicing rings are easier, servicing plans are easier because of the fact that you don't have to create your task sequence and modify it and do everything else, which is absolutely true. But again, you don't have the capability of doing a lot of extra things in there. Microsoft does know of these limitations of the servicing plans, and they're working to enhance that. It's Windows. They're working to enhance that to make that a more feasible solution for you to make things better. So we'll see where that goes in the future. But okay, so if we're right here, Windows 10, I don't have any servicing plans, so I can go and create a servicing plan here. And it gives me the basic options for creating a servicing plan. Or you can expand Windows 10 servicing, the node, and then there's Windows 10, there's servicing plans here, and you can go create a servicing plan here. The first option I showed you, created here, unless you click the button here for advanced settings, it's just very, very basic. You don't have a lot of control. But if you click the advanced settings option here, it takes you basically the Windows 10 the servicing plans here and gives you the full capability, the full features. Now, one thing you need to make sure that you have is obviously Windows 10 updates. So your upgrades of Windows 10 are going to appear here under Windows 10 servicing and the all Windows 10 updates. This is something that changed back in, I think it was 1602 build of Config Manager. They moved all the Windows 10 upgrades out of the software updates node and over to the all Windows 10 updates node. So you want to look at for them here. And to have these, again, you have to have that 1 KB that you had mentioned, 309, 7915 or whatever it was. I have to go back and look at it, but you need to make sure that you have the upgrades classification enabled. So go to your software update point, configuration, configure site components, and you go to products, classifications, and you make sure that you have upgrades selected. So upgrades are selected, and that will get you your upgrade for Windows 10. And that classification is not there until you have that one hotfix deployed. Okay, so once you've done that, again, you can go create a servicing plan and give it a logical name, Windows 10 1703. And now you pick your target collection, and I created the collection here for Windows 10 Servicing Ring 1. A lot of customers that do utilize this feature have multiple different rings for deployment, and you'll see why here in just a second. Very much like you have different collections for your software update deployments for piloting and prod, and then expanded prod and full deployments and servers and so on. So you have a lot of different collections that you target your software updates to. Same thing with the servicing rings. Now, here's where you get to designate. I'm on current branch. Oops, wrong button. Current branch for business. So if I want to do current branch, after how many days after Microsoft releases that version do I want to go ahead and do this deployment? And you can see you can slide anywhere from 0 to 120 days. So if you want to say, yeah, 30 days after Microsoft releases a release ready branch or current branch, I want to go ahead and do my deployment. Maybe for my first ring, I want that to only be, maybe I want it to be on day 0. And then later rings would be for 15 days or 30 days or whatever. So give a phased rollout. Language, go and pick my language, and I'm English only, so we'll take English. Title, I'm going to go to title, and since it's got all those, I'm going to say Enterprise version 1703. And if I just add that, then if I do a preview, it's going to show me a couple different ones because there's US English and then British English. And I don't want British English, so I'll go ahead and modify that. And we'll say EN-US. And we'll get rid of this guy here and add that one in. Oops, sorry about that. EN-US. And hopefully I got the right one there. And now we do our preview. And we're down to 1. Okay, so we got the right update we want. And now it's, again, very much like an ADR for software updates. How soon do you want to get your updates out to the distribution point once it's been downloaded as soon as possible? What's the deadline? So you're making it available right away. What's the deadline for installation? Obviously, you get to control these however you want to. They've got that grace period, which was added in 1610, I believe, for software deployments or application deployments as well. And then hide in Software Center. It's kind of a common solution. I like to display things, but that's entirely up to you. If you want to ignore maintenance windows, suppress restarts, and then you have to create a package. So I'll say Windows 10 1703 update and give it a source location where to download the files. Oops. Windows, I know I got two eyes in Windows. See what happens, guys, when you get old. Don't see as well. And have this automatically go to my distribution point. And then download the updates from the internet, English only. And it's created my servicing plan. Now I have that servicing plan there. I can go back here. I'll see that servicing plan listed here. And you have multiple different servicing plans for different rings that are going out. So your guys that are going in day 0, your guys that are going day 15, your guys that are going in day 60, and then just targeting different collections. So that's how you do that. And when you have these, all you do when you're ready to roll, you just click Run Now or let it run on a schedule, and it'll go ahead and download those appropriate updates, stage them in your environment, and then it's going to go to Software Updates. It's going to create a Software Update group. It'll create a Software Update package, a deployment package, and then it will have all your updates downloaded in it. And then they'll have a deployment created for that Software Update group once it's done. That's all you do there. Now, if you want to go the other route, which is the operating system deployment scenario, you'll create a brand new source, so Windows 10 upgrade package and 1703. So if we look at the properties of that, and I have my data source, you see that it's looking at a different source. That's Windows 10 1703. So you just create a new source, and then you just go create a task sequence. Task sequence would be the option to upgrade an operating system from an upgrade package. Windows 10 1703 upgrade, and then just point it to that upgrade package. So 1703, and then just fill out the rest of your wizard, and then you just deploy that. So this way is going to be more commonly implemented and more commonly recommended than the servicing plan, just because of the fact that it's a task sequence. So now I can go into my task sequence. I can go in there and add additional, under post-processing probably, I can roll in, add in additional steps to install applications or install additional software updates or to run other scripts, to provisioning packages and so on, to get my customizations re-implemented. So much easier to customize and control that solution from there on. So either way you want to do that, but obviously you need to keep your Windows 10 devices up to date. Okay, so now once we got our clients are up to date, what features do you have available to you? The great thing is, if you're using Configuration Manager, all your normal client features are going to work as you expect them to, and you're used to them from other operating systems. So Windows 10 is going to work exactly the same as your Windows XP did and your Windows 7 does, as far as client deployment, your inventory, your client health, software distribution updates, software metering, compliance settings, although there's new unique specific settings for Windows 10, endpoint protection, Windows Defender, and so on. So all the normal stuff you're doing with clients works exactly the same way. And obviously the operating system deployment does, is that's how we got to this place in the first place with the bare metal as well as the in-place upgrade. Now, there are some specific things that Windows 10 does bring to Configuration Manager, or Windows Configuration Manager makes advantages or available to you in the Windows 10 scenario. And the first page is kind of on health and protection. So update and restart, or update and shutdown. You guys know that feature has been in Windows for a long time, to go ahead and when you do a Control-Alt-Delete and you have the option there says update and shut down or update and restart. And that's never been available for Configuration Manager. So if you're doing software updates through Config Manager, that option was never there. And now it is for Windows 10. So when you're using Config Manager to deploy your software updates, if they require a reboot, it should integrate directly into that update and shutdown or update and restart feature. So that's pretty cool. Express updates. You guys have probably heard about Express updates. So as you know, Windows 10 has these cumulative updates that come out on a monthly basis. And since they're cumulative, they include all the updates from the previous releases, previous months. So those cumulative update packages get to be really big. They're over a gigabyte now in size. And they're just going to keep growing, obviously, because of the fact that they're cumulative for every month. But that's to help save you having to deploy a whole bunch of different updates individually, like in the old Windows 7 days, where you had a brand new client come out and it's way out of date and have to deploy thousands of updates. Okay, maybe not thousands, but lots of updates. Now just deploying the cumulative update for a lot of updates in it. Well, what Express updates are, Express updates are a way for Windows 10, 1607 and later, and Configuration Manager, they started implementing this in Config Manager 1610, but really got it implemented in 1702 most effectively. So for the latest Windows release, Windows 10 release, and the latest Configuration Manager, current branch release, is the ability of now taking these cumulative updates and enabling the Express Update option, putting these on your distribution points, but your clients only download the content, the part of that cumulative update package that they need. So only the updates they need. They don't download the whole gigabyte cab. They only download the specific updates that they need for that. So it makes it less network traffic across the wire for your clients. It does not help with your distribution point because you still have the cumulative updates that you're deploying out there. So that's going to keep the same or increase disk space because it's going to keep getting larger packages out there. But it does increase that, reduce that functionality, reduce the network traffic for your clients. And I'll show you how to enable that momentarily in the demo. Device health attestation. So there's a couple of different ways of doing this. If you want to do the on-premise version, which means your management point does the device health attestation processing, that requires Windows Server 2016 as a platform. There's also a cloud-based solution for device health attestation, which then obviously, since you're doing that analysis on the up on the web, you don't have to, up in the cloud, you don't have to worry about your server OS platform. But this is to verify that your clients have BitLocker enabled, they're doing secure boot, they have code integrity, early launch anti-malware. So those are the 4 things that are in device health attestation. And that data comes back down to Config Manager for you. Windows Advanced Defender Advanced Threat Protection. So this is, you got Windows Defender to help keep things out of your environment. The Advanced Threat Protection portion of Windows Defender is giving you some analytics to help determine if something has gotten there, because things happen before your definitions are updated. So those things can happen in your environment, even if you got Windows Defender out there or any other solution. So this is going to let you help do some analysis of post-breach. So what's happened, where did it come from, type scenarios, so you can do some analysis on that and hopefully try and lock out ports or whatever is necessary for that. So that's a Windows 10 feature, and again, it's 1607 and later, so the last couple of releases of Windows 10. Compliance settings. So when you go to configuration items, there's a lot of new settings for configuration items that are available, and I'll show you these in the demo coming up here momentarily. So there's some password settings, file encryption, security for user access control, firewall, antivirus, etc., enabling or prohibiting Bluetooth, data roaming, cloud synchronization, Windows information protection. And those are settings that are specific to Windows 10 clients managed by Configuration Manager. Windows 10 Edition upgrade. So the ability using a Configuration Manager policy to change your Windows 10 installation from a professional edition to the enterprise edition. So very, very easy. Windows Store for Business. So getting apps from the Windows Store for business. That's Windows 10. Universal Windows Platform Applications. So those, when Windows 10 coming out, that's one of the big things they touted was the ability of creating applications that were going to be available for any Windows 10 platform, whether it was mobile or desktop and server platforms as well. So Universal Windows Platform apps. So traditionally, when you get into Windows 8 and later, you need to have a side loading key. for deploying your applications from your distribution point instead of doing it from the store. Just so there's no need for a side loading key with your Universal Windows Platform applications that are Windows 10 based. Okay, there's a couple of things that require a Microsoft Azure account, such as Windows Hello for Business policies. So you can create and deploy those policies through Config Manager. However, that does require access to Microsoft Azure, an account for Azure. So you go ahead and do that linking and create the policies for Windows Hello for Business, letting the end user know, hey, there's some more things you need to do to get Windows Hello for Business set up. And then just real quickly, there's I mentioned this earlier before I get to my demo, because I think it's pretty much the last slide. Mobile device management. Again, you can enroll your Windows 10 devices into an on-premises installation of Configuration Manager, setting up it for on-premises mobile device management utilizing the MDM agent. So you can do that if you want to. Now, there are a number of things like configuration items and policies, compliance policies that require MDM enrollment. So they're not available for Configuration Manager clients. And if you go look at the policies that I'll show you momentarily, you'll see a number of those that are in that state, and they state only available for, some of them are only iOS or Android, but the ones that are Windows, a lot of times they're only for mobile device management. So Store, Microsoft Edge, Windows Defender, peak synchronization, wireless communications, Windows 10 Team, Windows Information Protection, and allowed and blocked apps list. So those are Windows 10 specific items that require the mobile device management agent. So enrolled through on-premises solution or enrolled through Intune hybrid configuration with Configuration Manager. And just for reference, you can't enroll a Configuration Manager client into mobile device management. So it's a either or solution. You can't use the MDM built-in agent as well as the Configuration Manager client agent at the same time. So that's something that is prohibited. You can only manage it through one means, either MDM or through Configuration Manager. And if that's something you guys are interested in the future, is having a presentation, a webinar on managing Windows 10 through Intune solutions, let me know, and I can make that recommendation to the people that create and schedule these things, and we can get something on the board for you. So anyway, all right, let's go over and look at a few of these things. We're towards the end of our time. So go back over to our site. And so express updates. So if you want to do express updates, a couple of different things you have to do is you go to the administration workspace, and you have to go back to your software update point component, and then update files, and then you have an option here under update files to download both full files as well as express installation files for Windows 10. So you have to enable this for your software update point, and that will allow Configuration Manager to know to download these express files. Then for your clients have to know about this. So probably what you're going to do is create a custom device client setting, and maybe say Windows 10 specifics, and then you go to software updates, add in software updates, and then down towards the bottom, you have here this option for enable express updates. You change that from a no to a yes, and then set the port that you want clients to use to download the content from. It's an internal, or it's a local port. It's not going out the web or anything, but so you just change this from a no to a yes, and you see the default port is 8005. You go ahead and create that setting, and then you would go ahead and just deploy this policy out to your collection of clients. So you might have a collection of Windows 10 clients, deploy that policy out to those clients. And then how you can tell that they're ready to roll, if I switch over to my Windows 10, here's that bare metal client I deployed last week. Go here, if you go to the Configuration Manager logs, there's a Configuration Manager log called Delta Download, and that's the log file for this feature for express updates. And just open up that log file, And you can see, just going down to the bottom, that log file, it says software updates enabled, yes, that's a 1. Express enabled, 0, so that means not, and what port it would use. So I deploy that custom setting to turn on Express updates, receive that policy through my client, and then the client will go ahead and change this to Express update or Express enabled. That would become a 1. And that lets you know that the client is now ready to do Express updates from Configuration Manager. So it's a very simple thing to turn on and then validate that you have enabled in your environment. Okay, so go back to our site server. And then most of the other stuff that's in there that's cool stuff is in assets and compliance. And then you go to compliance settings. And most of these things, when you look at compliance policies, or when you look at the other items you have here for your certificate profiles or email, VPN, and Wi-Fi profiles, a lot of those are for your mobile device managed clients. Not all of them, but a lot of them are. But the things I was going to look at is configuration items. So if you go to configuration items, and one of the things you have to watch for is when you start this, and I'll say just Windows 10 again, is you need to look for the platforms. And the product is doing a lot better now of telling you what these are for. So you have 2 different sections here. So it's for settings for clients that are managed by the Configuration Manager client or managed without the ConfigMan client. So it's getting a lot easier to tell inside the console if you're looking at Config Manager clients or non-Config Man clients being managed through Config Manager. However, they're enrolled as mobile device clients, so being with Intune. And obviously there's support for Windows 8.1 and Windows 10, as well as some of the other platforms. Or if you want to do the Config Man clients, there's Windows 10 settings here. So if we go to Windows 10 and click Next, and you can designate what Windows 10 platform you want to support, 64-bit or 32-bit. And then here's all the different settings that you have available to you that are specific to Configuration Manager clients managed by Windows 10. So, and I'll just go ahead and say select all, so just so we can look at those all real quick. We don't have a lot of time, but if we do select all, that's going to select all of those. And then, so you have the ability of configuring some password settings here. So if you go ahead and turn it on to required, now you go ahead and designate password lengths, number of characters, time, number of failed logon attempts. If you go to device settings, Bluetooth, allowed or prohibited. Cloud, whether you're doing setting synchronization, credential sync, or metered connections for Windows 10. Roaming, whether you're allowing data roaming. Encryption, file encryption is required on the device. System security, so user access control, whether firewalls required or not. Smart screen, virus protection, make sure your AV is up to date. Windows information protection, creating the policies for it. And then, oops, can't go on with that guy. He has some information, but platform applicability would be what specific platforms that you want to have, and it would tell you if there's any that are not supported. So a lot of options there for just Windows 10 as an environment. And then obviously, again, if you go back here and you say not, so not config manage, so managed in the hybrid configuration, and we'll just say test up there. And then you can go ahead and you see you got a lot of different options here for platforms in Windows 10. Again, that's in the hybrid configuration. You get hologram or team, which would be the big Surface tablet device, not tablets, but the team devices, as they call them now. So you have a lot of different settings there. So a lot of different options there available to you for setting that. So the nice thing is you don't have to do anything special for Windows 10 other than keep it up to date. And you get a couple different options for keeping up to date. The rest of your features are all pretty much the same, But if you do want to take advantage of some of those Windows 10 things, I had a couple of slides there for you, and there are some specific configuration items, advantages you can take advantage of, the update and restart, as well as the express update scenario. But things will get better. All the different releases coming out of Configuration Manager, they've been enhancing the Windows 10 support from the Windows platform. So look for more things coming in the future. So we're at the top of our hour. So let's go ahead and not close this out, but we'll finish off these slides and then we'll get into your questions. I see there's a number of things up in the questions panel already. So again, this has been a 3-week journey I'm going through. The first 2 weeks we talked about deploying Windows 10 using Configuration Manager a couple different ways, and now just some of the options you have for managing it. And there's nothing at all wrong with you guys taking a device and deciding, hey, I don't really want to manage it through Config Manager. I do want to do the mobile device scenario because you have a few more options there as far as customization. Actually, I could go show you real quickly. Let me go to my bare metal client again. My bare metal client, just for reference, if you want to go to settings, and then how you'd enroll this into MDM. And again, we can have a webinar on that if you guys say you want one. You go to work access, and you got a couple different things you can do. You can sign into Azure AD, which is the way Microsoft is going as well. And then you enroll into device management. So this is how you turn on that mobile device management agent and enroll into either Intune or Configuration Manager, managed through Intune or integrated with it. Now you see my case, it says, system policies are preventing me from connecting to a work or school account. Contact my support person for more information. In my case, that's because this computer does have the Configuration Manager client agent on it. If I were to go and uninstall the Configuration Manager client agent, that red message would go away and I would be able to click on enroll into device management. And if it was MDM enrolled, then you wouldn't be able to install the ConfigMan client agent without turning off the MDM enrollment. So just be aware of that, but that's how you would do that. So again, you want to be on current branch, keep your current branch of Configuration Manager up to date. So you should be on 1702 today, and hopefully in the next week or so, 1706 will be out. So keeping up to date, because that's how you have the support for the latest builds of Windows 10 and taking advantage of all those features. Migration to Windows 10 is very easy with in-place upgrade. And there's also multiple different OSD deployment options for getting up to Windows 10. And Configuration Manager gives you great overall support with the most features for managing your Windows environment, operating system deployment, and client health, and all those features we had on that couple of slides. Your mobile device management solutions provide unique options, so some different compliance settings, some different profiles that you can deploy outside of what Configuration Manager can do. So you do have some additional capabilities there. However, you don't have things like operating system deployment. You don't have all the various options for deploying your updates or different type of applications. You don't have all the different reporting options. So you get the larger feature set with Configuration Manager, but you have some unique options with that mobile device scenario. So you just have to look and see what's going to be applicable for you guys, what you want to have in your environment, how you want to manage your clients with those features, and determine what method you want, and then adjust accordingly. You can still keep Config Manager around for managing all your other platforms if you want to, like your servers, because Intune doesn't manage servers yet. But you could integrate with Intune and then enroll your Windows 10 devices into the Intune solution integrated or hybrid with Config Manager and manage it through the ConfigMan console. So lots of options there available for you. If you need help with your Windows 10 deployments or management or Configuration Manager upgrades or whatever, you can contact Cireson Consulting Services at sales@cireson.com, and we can help you out if you don't have the bandwidth or manpower to do that. We talked about the community as a way of just asking questions on Cireson solutions, but as well as just regular Microsoft solutions in the System Center space. And then if you want to try the Configuration Manager portal that I've mentioned a couple different times throughout this webinar series, you can go to either our website, cireson.com, you see it front and center there, and you can download the Community Edition, which is a free read-only edition into the looking at your configuration manager environment. Or you can go ahead and contact us and we get you a trial key and give you a fully functioning version of the portal, just limited for 30 days. Okay, with that, let's go look and see what we got for questions, and we'll close out our series. Again, it's been a pleasure being able to talk with you guys over the last few weeks. Hopefully you found it informative and beneficial, and something you take back to your environments and hopefully implement there. So, yep, Roger, I will absolutely, and Troy, okay, I will email you both on the Windows 10 Tablet Edition when I get the answer from my Microsoft contacts. But all the research I looked for, I could not find anybody that would state why it would report in as Tablet Edition. But I will find out and I'll email you guys. Thanks. Oops, and Andrew as well. Yep. Okay, Andrew, Express Updates, I believe requires a lot more disk space in your DPs as it needs to store a copy of all the different update manifest deltas, so while saving traffic on the clients. Storage becomes a problem. Yes, that is absolutely correct, Andrew. So when you do implement Express Updates, it does require more disk space on your distribution points because you have the regular download files, and then you have those Express update files. So your storage storage requirements increase on your distribution points. Your network traffic, obviously, to download those updates from the web is going to increase. You're downloading multiple different types of updates now, and including the manifests and all the control data that you mentioned. But your client traffic, which you're going to be you can have more clients and you're going to have distribution points. So the traffic across the wire to keep your clients updated should be reduced. So you're going to have some traffic to download the updates, web traffic. The bigger thing there is going to be your storage requirements because you're going to be downloading a whole lot more stuff now and having to keep it up to date, maintained, versus the network traffic to keep your clients updated. So yes, that's a great point. I tried to make that in the when I was talking about Express Updates, but if that did not come across clearly enough, then yes, absolutely. Thanks for pointing that out there, Andrew. Nelson, Windows 10 Edition downgrade is a possible from enterprise down to professional. That is a great question. I've only heard of people talking about doing an upgrade, edition upgrade, not an edition downgrade. So I have your email, Nelson. I will look at that and I will find out if you can do a edition downgrade. Yeah, that would be. I've never heard of anybody asking that before, so I will look for you. Well, we can look and see here. Let's go just as long as we're sitting here. Let's just look and see if we go down to Windows 10 Edition upgrade. Edition upgrade device 2. Yeah, it only shows upgrading to some later. It doesn't show downgrading to Windows 10 Professional, but I'll verify that and let you know for sure. Okay, management via Intune would like to see that. So okay. Okay, there's a couple of requests in here for management via Intune. So I will make the request then to the ladies that do the scheduling of things and see if they want to do a Windows 10 or Intune management session. So okay, do that. Is the Express Update port UDP from Roger? Yes, I believe that 8005 was a UDP port. Oh, Matt missed the client setting to enable Express Update installation files. So, okay, yeah, there's two things. You got to enable it on your software update point, and you have to enable it for your clients, so your clients will be able to take advantage of it. So, yep, it's a two-part thing. Okay, Mark wants the tablet edition. It'd be great if they had a all-inclusive email, so for everybody from webinar, so I could do that. But anyway, I'll do that. Can you upgrade Win 10 Pro to ENT during a task sequence from Quinn? So can you upgrade via task sequence? In-place upgrade is going to do the same addition, but if you did a wipe and load type scenario, a bare metal replacement, or rip and replace type scenarios, those you could certainly do that. But if you're doing the in-place upgrade, well, if you it depends on what edition of Windows 10 you're doing. So yeah, I was using Windows 7 Professional, but Windows 10 Pro. So Windows 10 Pro to Windows 10 via task sequence. I believe that is possible, but Quinn, I will validate that and let you know for sure. But I do believe that is possible. Oh, Win 7 Pro. Okay, Win 7 Pro. Okay, yes, because that's exactly what I did. My client was Windows 7 Professional, and I did the in-place upgrade to Windows 10 Enterprise. So yes, that's what my scenario was Windows 10 Professional to Windows 10 Enterprise. So yes, we're good there. Okay, anything else in there? All righty, I don't see anything else in the queue right now, so I'll hang out for a couple more minutes to see if anybody else has anything. I'll stop the recording, and then when I close out this webinar, I will get the recording converted over and then uploaded to the our gal Mel, who gets that up on our website or up on the Vimeo site. So we'll get that there for you guys. I will download the question log, so I keep track of everybody that wanted that, like 4 of you guys that wanted the tablet edition thing. So I'll get that, and I'll email you guys as soon as I get the answer from either one of my Microsoft contacts, the guy in the Windows team or the guy in the configuration manager team. Tried them both. So that is great. So thank you all for taking the time out of your weeks to spend here with me. Hopefully, again, you found the presentations beneficial and learn something with them, and hopefully enjoyable and not too much pain for you, or at least worst case, you got 3 hours of naps in. That's always worthwhile as well. So with that, I'll go ahead and stop the recording. I'll close this out. I'll get you guys those answers and email you out directly. And then we will go ahead and see you on a future webinar.